folks, so AlloyDB Omni is a properly downloadable product, which means you get to set it up, which is fine. The docs are solid and they guide you through step by step along the way on how to do it, but I'm an engineer, which means I'm always looking for ways to optimize. So today, I'm going to walk you through setting up AlloyDB Omni on a Google Compute Engine VM with a startup script, which means once that VM comes up, you'll have a fully configured, ready to go Omni instance to use right off the bat. I'm going to do this in the console, but one of the cool things about the compute console is that once you have everything configured, you can see an equivalent like gcloud command or a Terraform config, and then you can use that in your automation if you want. So without further ado, let's dive in. Here we are on our GCE page. Let's go ahead and start creating an instance. Okay, so I need to give it a name. Pick your region close to you. For me, it doesn't matter, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it as it is. Omni wants at least 2 CPUs and 2 gigs of RAM. The default for VMs right now is 2 CPUs, 4 gigs of RAM, so I can leave that alone too. Skip down to the boot disk. So Omni will want more than 10 gigs of storage to help get things set up. So I'm going to bump that up to 20 gigs so we don't run out of space. And we'll definitely want more space for the data. So let's go ahead and add an extra disk. We need to give the disk a name. And I'm going to bump it up to 200 gigs. Now, you can allocate however much space you want, but if you change it from 200 gigs, remember what you set it to, because I use that value in the startup script. So just remember whatever you've set the size to here, because you're going to need it later. You can also choose to set the disk to delete with the instance if you want. There's a couple things to think about if you do. If you do set it to delete with the instance, then keep in mind, that means if you delete the instance, your database data is all going to go away. Conversely, if you say don't delete with the instance and you get rid of the instance, you're still going to have a persistent disk with all your database data sitting on it, so it'll be an extra cleanup step later if you choose that you don't need that data anymore. Either way, just think about it when you do it. So now for the magic, scroll down. If you expand your management section, you're going to see this automation box. When creating a GCE VM, you can give it a script that'll run on startup, and that's what we're going to do. I've created the startup script already. The link to the GitHub repo where it lives is down in the description below. And there's a couple of different ways that you can actually use a startup script. Again, in the description below, I've linked to the relevant docs page where it talks about different ways you can interact with a startup script. For today, I'm just going to cut-paste the script into the UI and use it that way. Now notice, when I paste it in over here, in the equivalent code section, you can see the metadata tag, and it has the full script with that tag for startup script. That's not what you'd want if you're running on the CLI. I mean, you can, but it's much easier. For example, you could pass in a local file, or if you're doing automation, you could pull in a startup script from Google Cloud Storage. Those are a couple of the other ways you can use startup scripts. And that's it. I'm going to go ahead and hit a create button, and then while that's going, let's jump over here, and I'll walk you through real script what the script is doing. All right, to start off with, I'm just setting a few variables. That disk size variable is the one that I mentioned before, where if you've allocated a different size to that external disk, you need to change this variable to match what the size is. I'm using it in order to find the right disk. So warning, if you set it to the same size as your boot disk, I'm not actually sure what the script would do, but it might like format your boot disk. So just make sure that it's different than that 20 gigs for your boot disk. The rest of this first section is formatting, mounting our external disk so that we allocated. GCE by default doesn't mount any disks, so that we have to do it. I set the database directory to var lib AlloyDB Omni data, which is consistent with what Postgres does. So Postgres puts it in the same kind of area. The other option might be to like install your data directory maybe in your home directory. But if you want to do that, the startup script fires off before your user's been created and the home directory's been created. So you can still do it, but what that means is that this script, instead of being a startup script, will be after. So you'll create the VM, SSH into it, then you can run this script on the VM, and it'll still all work, it'll still all run as you expect. But if you want it in your user directory, you'll just have to do it as a post-create step instead of an all-in-one. This next chunk, it's just installing the prerequisites for Docker and then installing Docker itself. Then we grab the AlloyDB Omni command line tool and run the server install and start it up. Finally, I installed the Postgres client just to make things easy. I don't think there's ever been a case where I've had a Postgres database that I'm interacting with that I haven't needed the client. It's small, so I just went ahead and installed it to make it convenient. And that's it. So hopefully by now, let's go back to the GCE instance and try and SSH into it. Give it a sec to log in. Okay, now I should be able to use PSQL to log in to AlloyDB Omni. And there we go. So please note, I just did that without a password because by default, it doesn't set a password on the Postgres user. So first thing you need to do, please go and set a password on your Postgres user. Then you can do whatever you want, but do that first. And that's it. So in just a few minutes, you have an AlloyDB Omni database up and running on GCE. Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you like seeing content like this, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.